All right, let's bring in John Greco. He's on the fan hotline. Let's talk about all this. Well, we're not going to talk about YouTube Live with him, but either way, he's appearing on the fan hotline. We'll talk about the Browns game on Sunday and look forward to the Ravens game coming up this Sunday. Hello, John.
Ken and Anthony, good to be with you. Always a pleasure.
John, all right, what'd you think of DeJuan Jones on Sunday?
You know, DeJuan held his own. Trey Hendrickson obviously is a premier pass rusher in this league. And there were times that I thought Trey, got edgy on him, got some edges, and he gave up some pressures. But that's going to happen. I'm sure the left tackle that was playing against Myles Garrett is, wiping his brow today and yesterday and thanking God that he's beyond that and has to wait till next time. But, DeJuan, I thought looked good in the run game. I think across the board, the guys, have to improve quickly with the zone schemes. It didn't seem like they were getting a lot of movement and line of scrimmage displacement. But DeJuan, he struggled against a premier pass rusher at times, and a lot of guys are going to do that. A lot of left tackles are going to do that in this league against Trey Hendrickson. So I wasn't discouraged. Hopefully he can continue to keep working hard and studying his opponents and building a good game plan against the guys he's going to be seeing week in and week out because, there's no off weeks. Even though you're not going to see guys like Trey Hendrickson every week, he's going to see Micah Parsons in a few weeks. The Ravens have some serious dogs over there that can rush the passer. I mean, that's just every team has that. So, I know that he's in a room with some vets, some guys that know how to prepare. He's done that, and I would expect him to continue to get better. But, I thought he held his own against a premier pass rusher in the league.
John, what do you think of all the different gadgets that you knew Stefanski? He was in his bag, as the kids say. He had, the Harold Fannin lined up all over.
I'm not going to say it anymore after you just said it.
Double tight ends, doing what they do. And obviously a lot of the swing passes, they had to be resourceful in the running game. Do you think that was a dream come true for Coach?
I think, he got to kind of dust off the back pages of his playbook, those little binders that these coaches keep with the doodles of plays that they have. But, you mentioned something in there that I don't want to say it's concerning to me, but, all of that is kind of window dressing. And when you're trying to manufacture runs by swing passes and throwing these kind of extended handoffs because the run game isn't going anywhere, it's a little bit concerning. And, hey, look, you got to do what you got to do. The Browns were in this game and in a position to where they could have won the game. And then we could have dissected, hey, they won, they're 1-0, but, why couldn't they run the ball a little bit more effectively? And then we can get into that. I'm sure, Kevin and the offensive coaches, there's a million plays on that Denny's Wendy menu card. And, they kind of, green check mark some of the plays throughout the week, as the guys execute them at practice. And then they say, this just doesn't make sense this week against whatever defense the opponent's, running or, what they have success against, opposing offenses. But, they were in a position where they had to try to manufacture yards some way, somehow, and that's what they had to resort to. But, moving guys around, I think that they're still, in kind of the infant stages of the season to where you don't necessarily want to show those things in the preseason. So I guarantee you they worked on them at practice, but you're seeing them live. So they're trying different things, different concepts, formations, motions, shifts, just to create things and create opportunities for players, especially young players, like you mentioned with Fannin. So, look, that kid's got a bright future, and Browns fans should be excited. So trying to create ways to get him the ball, see what his strengths are, see what his weaknesses are in the game, and try to maximize those things.
What are the teammates thinking of Andre Schmidt right now?
I think today, obviously the guys are off, but, it sucks. And, they're not going to go up to him and say, hey, you lost the game, you ruined it for us. My God, what are you doing? Make your kicks. I don't think anybody's going to do that, but it's going to be more of like a forceful encouragement. Like, hey man, come on, shake that off, but we need you. You could be in that situation again, 4 or 5 days from now, however many days Sunday is from now. But I would think it's more kind of a stern, positive, encouraging, if that makes sense. After the game, when emotions are running high and adrenaline is flowing, maybe things are said, and I'm not saying I heard those things, but you kind of go over to him after the game and say, hey, look, this is one of many this year. And, let's not be in this situation again. Go back, watch your tape, see what you did wrong, clear your head, and next time you get the opportunity, be the hero. Don't be the GOAT. So if you have another chance to do it this Sunday, hopefully, where you're in a game-winning situation, make that kick, and all of a sudden week one feels a little bit less painful. And that's really, if that was me, that's what I would want. I would want that next opportunity to come as quickly as possible. I wouldn't want it lingering for 3-4 weeks, month and a half, to where I get to prove to everybody, my teammates, myself, the fans, that I'm the guy, that I can make this kick and I can win this game. So hopefully that opportunity comes sooner than later. But you got to execute. I mean, you got to make extra points. And look, they're professionals. When you're asked to go in there and win the game, you got to be able to do it. So that's what I would be doing if I was in the locker room, and that's what I would expect his teammates to be, how they would be responding here on Tuesday and Wednesday.
So I was pretty hot and bothered over the whole thing yesterday, and I said, you know what? I'm not trying to be mean, but we got to find somebody else. How would you have done it? Do you think that the Browns should move on, or do you want to give them another chance? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I heard you saying that yesterday, and Mondays are an emotional days, right, wrong, or indifferent, and it's going to happen. And I think it sucks because the Browns were 5.5-point underdogs in this game. We all thought they had a chance. We knew how they play against Cincinnati, but I don't know if the rest of the league or the rest of the world thought we were going to be in that situation. But I did. I felt good about it. And look at all the positives that were, surrounding this game. And for it to come down to a damn kick that we miss, it just sucks. So I get the emotions, but I don't want to get into a situation where, everybody that makes a mistake, we're ready to move on from them. And there's like the shortest of leashes, because, they can have host tryouts for kickers, whatever they're going to do. I don't know if it's to create some stress or fire under the guy or just to create competition, but okay, so you move on, and I always go back to the grass isn't always greener. And if you get to a new kicker in week 2 and, we're lining up to kick a game-winning field goal against the Ravens, and God forbid that doesn't go in and we end up losing another heartbreaker, are we sitting here on Tuesday in week 3 saying, hey, now we have to have our third kicker in 3 weeks? I mean, that would look absolutely terrible. At that point, I think, maybe coaches would start, being on the big time hot seat. But I'm not ready to really, send him out the pasture yet. But, he's got to turn it around, and he's got to turn it around quick, because I think what's so frustrating for fans is, we thought that, the message to us was, hey, this kid was 100% in preseason and camp. He looked so good. And Browns fans were breathing sighs of relief, saying, okay, a lot of the things last year that we saw, a lot of the missed kicks, hopefully that's in the past and no longer a part of us. And then for it to always, be brought front and center again week 1 when we had a chance to win the game, I mean, it hurts. So I'm with you, and I'm with everybody that's showing those emotions, but I'm not really ready to rip the Band-Aid off just yet. I want to give the kid another chance.
John, you have to go back a year and a half, basically, to a running performance as bad as what the Browns just delivered in the opener against the Bengals. What do you think was the problem? 2.1 yards per carry, 40 total yards.
Yeah, Anthony, to me, it looked like the strength of the offensive line when the Browns were rocking and rolling with that zone concept was the inside 3 guys. And it just seemed like, I don't know if they weren't on the same page. I don't want to say they weren't on the same page. Those guys have played together enough now, but it just seemed like, without me dissecting the film, and I'm just watching the TV copy, I don't know if the Bengals had just a really good defensive scheme to try to combat it. But look, you have a young rookie running back in there that maybe is still trying to find his way and trust the guys ahead of him. But I thought the inside three was an area where that's typically the strength of the five in the run game in that zone concept. And I thought those guys didn't meet their potential or what we're used to seeing from them. And it was just, guys defensively getting on an edge, not getting that vertical displacement off the line of scrimmage to where it's creating space for the running back. It just seemed like the running backs weren't able to hit their read and their gap full speed and then make that cut. The backside cutoffs weren't being executed, which is a huge part of the zone run. It's not always the front side point of attack. A lot of times that kind of built-in cutback happens off of those backside cutoff blocks and those backside combination cutoff blocks. And those didn't seem like they were there at times. So that's why I thought the running game was really hamstrung. So later in the game, when they started going to those, gap schemes, the powers with the down blocks and the pullers, I thought they had a little bit more success. So maybe we'll see that sprinkled in more often, and they can go back to being kind of that 1-2 punch with the zone and the gap schemes. But yeah, I'm not trying to sound like I'm doing a cop out here where I'm like, it's just 1 week. It is concerning. So they're watching the tape this week. Obviously yesterday, and they're going to be working on that and how they can improve quickly because the Ravens are good at defending the zone run. They have some big, two gap guys in the middle and up front, and they have linebackers that can run and move and learn and know how to read guards and centers' helmets. So we'll see. Those guys, those three that in the middle that I'm talking about, they're pros. They played a long time. They've gone to Pro Bowls. I know they'll get it corrected.
John, we only have a little bit of time here. There was a little bit of a consolation going, well, if you're going to lose a game, at least you lost because of a kicker, not because of the young guys. That Nick said that yesterday. I was like, that's a fair point. But then we had a caller who was encouraging of it today. What do you, as a former player, what do you say to guys who, are hoping that they lose so they get a better draft pick for next year?
I mean, it's hard for me to even comment on that. As a player, you don't give a rat's ass about next year's draft because all that means is you're 1 year older, and that could be another guy that they're picking to try to replace you that takes your job. So that to me now means something different to when I played. And, I just kind of put myself in those guys' shoes, and I think like a guy that is playing. So that sucks. I mean, we're 1 week into the season, and I think the Browns could be competitive. Joe Flacco looked good. He was upright most of the game. I thought they could have maybe thrown the ball downfield more, but maybe they weren't for some reason that we all don't know. But I think this team can win games, and it came down to a kick. So if they can execute and steal some of these games early on, and then we're not talking about the draft in late October or mid-October. I mean, that's what we want. Yeah, we have 2 first-round draft picks next year, but let's let them be competitive picks, and let's be in this conversation where, hey, we're 2 guys away from being able to win this division or being able to host a playoff game. Let's use our 2 first-round picks to plug those guys in, take the 2 best guys available, and then let's have that conversation as opposed to let's get the number 1 and number 4 picks. I mean, I'm sick of that. Everybody's got to be sick of that.
John, we thank you so much for the time. All the very best to you and yours, and we'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Take care now.
Guys, have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The great John Greco joining us on the Fan Hotline.